Hello, I'm Panos Kotzathanasis, and this is Bad Accent Video Reviews. Today we're going to speak about All We Imagine Is Light by Payal Kapadia, which premiered this year's Cannes Film Festival and ended up winning the Grand Prix. It's a very significant film for India since it's the first film from the country to compete in the main competition since 1994. And if I'm not mistaken, it is also the first by a woman filmmaker from India to screen in Cannes. The film was an international co-production involving companies from India, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Italy. Regarding this co-production scheme, I have to say that whenever I hear that an Asian film is the product of co-production, I am not enthusiastic about it, let's say. Usually what happens is that at least one of the countries that co-produce, they demand for the post-production to happen in their own country, meaning for the whole production to pay some money to the people from that country in order for the post-production to happen there. And usually this means that probably the editing will happen outside of the Asian country, and which will probably result in a film that is at least as much European or whatever country is co-producing as it is Asian. Considering that the editing dictates the pace of the film and essentially how the story unfolds, the whole rhythm of the film, you can understand that this part is quite significant, and it's also the problem that we see so many films, particularly in European film festivals, that are from Asia, but they look particularly European and quite similar in their intense art house aesthetics. All We Imagine Is Light was not an exception. The editing was done by Clement Pinto, which obviously he's not from India, probably French, although I'm not sure, could be from Luxembourg or somewhere else. But the result was again a film that looks quite a lot like a European art house film. Okay, I can understand the necessity of the whole endeavor because many productions from Asia cannot find money to complete the movie, and this is a way out for them. And also this approach kind of guarantees the presentations of European film festivals of Asian films, which otherwise is not as prevalent as it could be, let's say. Evidently, in that regard, this concept was a success since it screened in Cannes and it won an award, but the result is a whole different thing. Okay, apart from that, let us take a look at the film itself. So the story revolves around three nurses who have come to modern day Mumbai from other cities with the other regions in India, with the initial scenes highlighting how difficult it is for people to make it in the huge city that it's Mumbai, but also how much it can be the only way out from them to make a living. Okay, the three women that are starring in the story are Prabha, which is a young woman probably bordering on middle age, who is like a chief nurse in the hospital who is working on. The younger and the older ones look up to her and ask her for advice and in general respect and cherish her. However, she has also some issues that she faces herself, since she married a man from an arranged marriage who almost immediately after they were married, he went to Germany to work, and she has not seen him for almost a year, maybe more than a year. Okay, this has caused her much anxiousness, since she does not know what has happened to him, and also does not let her to know what she has to do with her life. Okay, tradition dictates that she has to wait for him, but since he's nowhere to be found, he might as well be dead. So she's stuck, and she's very anxious about the fact. At the same time, there is There is a doctor named Siaz who works on the hospital and has similar background to her, meaning that he came from the country to Mumbai, and he obviously likes her. He brings her a gift, he writes her poems, and obviously he is fond of her. But again, Prabha does not know what to do in that case also, since she's stuck. The second is a younger woman, Anu, which is like, let's say, the product of the new generation. She's always stuck on her phone, and she's a bit flirty. Okay, that has nothing to do with the new generation, but okay, this is how she is. And she stays at the same house or room with Prabha. It's a very small establishment, but she has been there for a couple of months, and already her financial situation is in shambles, and she asks from Prabha to cover her rent until she manages to make some money. Prabha, being the person who she is, she definitely helps her. But her whole frustration about her husband and her whole situation eventually takes a toll on her, and at one point she lashes out to Anna after she realizes some other nurses tell her that start gossiping about her, and particularly the fact that she keeps a Muslim boyfriend. Okay, eventually the two women manage to get along once more, but the whole situation becomes quite evident from that episode. And Anu's boyfriend, Siaz, the two appear to be very much in love. But the problem is that in the huge and very crowded city that is Mumbai, they cannot find the space to enjoy the love, which again makes them very anxious about what is going to happen in the future. Things become even more tense when Anu's parents mention arranging a marriage for her, and obviously considering that she seems to be Hindu, bringing a Muslim to her family is almost out of question. The last woman is Parvati, an elderly woman who has been widowed, and she's being threatened with eviction because a property developer has bought her apartment building, and her later husband has not left her documentation that would prove that she has a residence right to remain, or at least get a compensation. She visits a lawyer along with Prabha, who is ever helpful, but the lawyer also tells her that her situation is quite difficult since essentially without papers she has no case. In a kind of a whim, let's say, the three women, and frustrated by the whole situation, they decide to go along with Parvati when she quits her job in the hospital and goes back to her home village on the coast. Anu, however, seems to have her own reasons of her own for going to such a discreetly remote place, which I guess you can easily guess. Okay, so in that regard, it's easy to say that the film unfolds in two, or maybe one can say three axes. Okay, the first axis is about the story and the life of the three women, which essentially provides a view into the lives of women in India nowadays. Okay, the patriarchy is quite intense, as you have realized by the story, and which is a fact. It's the Indian reality. We see Prabha had a marriage arranged for her, and now that her husband is nowhere to be found, she cannot escape the whole ordeal. Anu is in a similar situation, despite the fact that she's a different person and she cannot choose the man she wants for himself, considering that apart from patriarchy, she also has to face the segregation that seems to torment Indian society. While Parvati essentially realizes that she has no rights to her home if her husband has not taken care of it. Okay, the comment about the place of women in India is as realistic and pragmatic as it is harsh. At the same time, however, and there is also a comment about how hard life can be in the megalopolis, and particularly Mumbai, both financially and socially, which is again presented through the lives of the three women. On the other hand, and this brings us to the second axis of the film, there is a tour guide aspect, a road movie one could say, since there are a number of we can see the protagonists, but also there are scenes without them that allow the viewer to travel essentially through the city, with Kapadia showing a number of its instances, mostly happening at night. The crowded streets, the shops, the houses, what's happening on the street, everything is portrayed there in a way that highlights the problem that the city has, but also its beauty. In that regard, Ranabir Das cinematography is one of the best aspects of the film, with him presenting the city initially, and then the more remote area that the three protagonists end up in, with the same artistry and realism, with his approach frequently looking like a documentary. This approach definitely helps the film. In general, I feel that the cinematography along with the acting are probably the best aspects of the film. And talking about acting, the three women all give excellent performances. Kani Kusruti as Prabha is the main protagonist, and she's exceptional once more. I remember her from Biriyani, if I am not mistaken. She's a great actress, and she proves it here once more. Particularly the fact that she's experienced an intense inner struggle, but tries to keep it bottled in, is impressive to watch, which also makes the sole moment that she erupts in the movie all the more impactful. Anu is the exact opposite, with her essentially flaunting all that she feels to everybody. And this antithetical chemistry between the two definitely works quite well for the film. Also establishes the roles quite elegantly, with Prabha being kind of a mentor and Anna a spoiled child, let's say, one could say it like that. With Divya Prabha in the role of Anu being equally convincing in a role that's not particularly smaller than the one Kusruti has. Lastly, Chaya Kadam as Parvati has a relatively smaller role, but is also quite convincing in highlighting a character that finds herself immersed in problems and having to escape. The chemistry with the other two in general is great, while the scene where she and Anu are dancing will probably stay in the mind of every viewer. At the same time, when the story moves to the country, the realism is left aside for a moment, and there is a supernatural element coming into the movie, which turns it into kind of a fable. But again, this works quite well for the narrative, also assisted by the impressive visuals and the overall editing by Clement Pinto, as I mentioned, which makes the transition from the various aspects quite interesting. There is also an erotic scene that is also quite realistic as the rest of the films, and in generally tastefully done. At the same time, okay, the film is definitely well shot. It's very meticulously constructed, with the way the various frames and the whole mise-en-scene is created being top-notch. I should also add the music by Topsy in that regard, with the jazzy-like piano in the beginning and the more magical, let's say, music towards the second part, working particularly well for the overall aesthetics of the movie. At the same time, okay, as I mentioned, the movie is definitely well shot. At the same time, that there was a purpose in making this movie, to go to European Film Festival and achieve some success, is quite evident, which if you understand how this whole thing works, you will realize that it's artificially constructed in order to achieve this particular goal. I have no doubt that the film will make an extensive festival round, will win a number of awards, but I have to admit this is not exactly my style, and although, okay, it doesn't matter that it's not my style. The film is definitely good, but I feel there are too many films that are done in this fashion, which for me is quite annoying. It's difficult to say that this is an Indian film, no matter which industry it comes from, like Hindi or Malayalam or Marathi. And it looks more like a European film that was done with an Asian flavor, an Indian flavor, and an Indian cast. This is not exactly a bad thing by itself, but for me, it's a problem in the presentation of Indian art and Indian cinema in general. So in the end, what one could say that if you enjoy European art house films, the ones that usually screen in the festivals, you cannot go bad with All We Imagine the Light. It's excellent to watch, its visuals and its overall mission scene is impressive, and it definitely deserves a watch. However, if you prefer your Indian films more Indian, let's say, then you will probably have to look someplace else, and I would suggest taking a look at the films that are screening in Rotterdam. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and see you again soon. Have a nice day. Bye.